I never thought I'd be sitting here, spilling this all out in what feels like some kind of confession, but honestly, I'm still trying to process what happened. My name's Mike, and I was married to Lisa for about 8 years. We had a decent life, good jobs, a nice house, a lot of shared memories. But somewhere along the way, things started slipping. Little signs at first, you don't really notice them. Lisa's attitude changed. She became more distant, more bitchy, snapping at me over nothing and always with some bullshit excuse. She'd say she was tired from work or stressed out, but I could tell she was hiding something. Still, I never suspected it was anything big, just the usual marital tension. Then came the real trouble, her health. Lisa has a kidney condition, so she needs dialysis 3 times a week. It's draining, both physically and emotionally, but I was always there, supportive. I even took time off work to sit with her during treatments sometimes. I thought that bond, that shared ordeal, would keep us close. But I was wrong. Slowly, I started noticing strange behaviors. She'd leave her phone around more often, hide her texts, and cancel plans at the last minute. I just brushed it off as her being busy or stressed, until one day I caught her lying about her whereabouts. It was a random Tuesday, and she had a session scheduled in the early afternoon. I was waiting at home doing some chores when I decided to check her phone. Just a quick peek, nothing invasive, I told myself. I saw a message from a number I didn't recognize, something about seeing you tonight, and a picture attached. It was Lisa, smiling at someone at a restaurant. I stared at the screen, stunned. She lied about her treatment that day, lied about everything, apparently. That message was from her dialysis technician, Jake. I recognized him from the clinic. He's young, cocky, and always acting like he's better than everyone. I never liked him, but I didn't suspect anything until then. I felt like my stomach dropped out. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? Was I blind? Did I somehow miss all the signs? The next few hours were a blur. My head was spinning, my chest tight. I kept replaying the moment I saw that message, the betrayal sinking in deeper with every second. It wasn't just about the fact that she cheated. It was that she lied to my face about everything. Her health, her whereabouts, us, all of it was a lie. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but held back. I needed a plan. I needed to understand just how deep this betrayal went. The thing is, Lisa's not exactly the kind of woman you'd call sweet or caring. She's bitchy, manipulative, and loves to twist things around. She always had some excuse for her bad behavior, and I knew she'd deny everything. Still, I had to face her. That night I waited until she got home, tried to keep a calm voice. I think I did a pretty good job hiding my anger. When she walked in, I didn't waste time. I laid the phone on the table and looked her straight in the eyes. "Who's Jake?" I asked, voice steady but cold. Her reaction was instant. She looked surprised, then annoyed, like I was bothering her. "What are you talking about, Mike?" "It's just a friend from work," she shot back, trying to brush it off. But I wasn't buying it, not anymore. She started lying, saying he was just a coworker, that they'd run into each other at the restaurant because she was meeting up with a friend. I told her I saw the message, I saw the picture. That's when she got really bitchy, started throwing tantrums, saying I was stalking her, that I didn't trust her. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I just wanted the truth. And honestly, I was furious, feeling betrayed in a way that cut deeper than any physical wound. What struck me most was how she tried to turn it around, as if I was overreacting, as if her cheating was somehow my fault. She's always been that way, blame shifting, gaslighting, trying to make me feel like I was the crazy one. But I knew I was. I felt humiliated, angry, and hurt beyond words. I never thought I'd be the guy discovering his wife was screwing around with some kid from her dialysis clinic, of all places. The irony. My life-saving treatments, the one thing that was supposed to keep me alive, were tainted by her betrayal. It was like my own body was a battleground for her lies and her sexcapades. I felt filthy, betrayed, and utterly lost. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her sneaky texts, that stupid picture of her laughing with Jake. I wondered how long she'd been doing this, how many times she'd met him, how many secrets she'd kept. The worst part, I still loved her. I still wanted to believe there was some way out of this mess, but I knew I couldn't ignore what I'd found. Not anymore. I decided I needed to keep my distance to figure out my next move. But trust me, that discovery shattered me. It cut through everything I thought we had, and it made me question every moment, every memory. How could she do this to me, to us? I didn't have an answer, only a sinking feeling that my whole life was about to change forever. After that night, everything felt different, like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I remember sitting on the couch, staring at the phone, trying to process what I'd uncovered. The anger, shock, and heartbreak all collided inside me. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it sooner, how I'd missed all the signs. I thought about the good times, the fights, the laughter, and how she'd always been a little bitchy, but I never guessed she was capable of this level of deceit. It was like finding out my wife had been hiding a secret life, and I was the last to know. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with more clarity. I wanted the truth, plain and simple. I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I just wanted to know everything. So I sat her down the next day and I looked her dead in the eyes. She was surprisingly calm, which made me even angrier. She's good at acting like she's innocent, like everything's perfectly fine. But I could see the flicker of guilt behind her fake smile. I asked her again about Jake, her technician, the guy she'd been sneaking around with during my dialysis sessions. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. She told me she was just being friendly, that Jake was just a coworker and I was paranoid. She threw in some bullshit about how I was overreacting, how I didn't trust her, and how I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But I didn't buy it, not even close. I told her I saw the message, the picture, everything, that she was full of shit. That's when she started losing it, raising her voice, calling me crazy, saying I was ruining her reputation. She even went as far as to say I was trying to control her, that I was jealous and insecure. That day, I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. My wife was still lying, still playing her game, and I was the one left holding the bag. Inside, I was boiling over. I wanted to do something, anything, to make her see how much she'd hurt me. But what? I wasn't confrontational by nature, but this time I felt like I needed to take control. I told her she needed to leave the house, leave my life for now. I wasn't going to be with someone who cheated and lied and thought she could get away with it. I told her to pack her stuff and go, and I swear, she looked at me with that bitchy smirk as if she thought I was overreacting. And then she started crying. Not because she was sorry. No, it was that fake, manipulative crying that she always used when she wanted to guilt-trip me. I didn't buy it. I just looked at her and said, "You're done, I'm done. I want nothing to do with this, at least for now." Part of me wanted to scream, to break something, but I held back. I just wanted her gone. I knew I needed space, time to breathe, to think about what this all meant. I sat alone that night, staring at the wall, feeling emptier than I ever had before. This betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about trust, loyalty, respect, all gone now. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake at that damn restaurant. Her bitchy attitude, her lies, her selfishness, it all came rushing back. I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, turn into someone who could do this? How did I not see the signs? And most painfully of all, what do I do now? The thing is, I'd always believed in fighting for a marriage, but after this, I wasn't sure anymore. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, and I did see the shore. I knew I had to make a choice, whether to forgive, to work through it, or to walk away. Honestly, part of me wanted to just pack up and leave, erase everything she's done, start fresh. But another part was still holding onto that flicker of hope, hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to fix this. The problem is, I don't know if I even want to try anymore. That night, I realized I was at a crossroads. Everything I'd trusted, everything I believed in had been shattered. I felt like I'd been betrayed by the one person I was supposed to trust the most. And as much as I wanted revenge, I also wanted to understand why she did it. What made her think she could get away with this? I didn't sleep much that night. I just kept replaying everything, wondering how much of my life was a lie and how I was supposed to pick up the pieces after such a brutal betrayal. The days that followed were some of the worst I've ever experienced. I kept busy just to avoid thinking about what I'd found out. I couldn't shake the image of her with Jake at that damn restaurant, laughing and acting like they weren't doing something dirty behind my back. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirk, that bitchy expression she puts on when she's trying to spin a lie. It was like her face was burned into my brain. I felt completely shattered, angry, hurt, and honestly, pretty damn lost. I'd always prided myself on being calm and rational, but this betrayal, had me spiraling. I avoided her as much as I could. She kept texting and calling, trying to play the victim, trying to guilt me into talking to her. She'd send these long, whiny messages about how she was sorry and it was just sex, and how she didn't mean for it to happen. Yeah, right. That's what she told me too. She kept claiming it was just a stupid mistake, that Jake was just a fling and she was sorry for crossing the line. But I wasn't buying any of it. I knew her too well. She's good at lying and she's even better at twisting things around to make herself look innocent. But I saw right through her act. One day, I decided. I needed to get some clarity. I couldn't just sit around stewing in my own anger. So I went to a lawyer just to see what my options were. I wasn't sure if I wanted to separate or try to fix things, but I needed to know where I stood legally. The lawyer told me I had grounds for divorce if I wanted, especially given her infidelity. That hit me hard, like a punch to the stomach. I'd never wanted to throw away what we had, but how could I stay with someone who'd betrayed me so completely? It was like my world was crumbling piece by piece. That same day, I also started collecting evidence. I kept her texts, her messages, the photo of her with Jake. I wanted to be prepared just in case I needed to confront her again or take legal action. It was a strange feeling, like I was preparing for war, even though I didn't want to admit that. Deep down, I still hoped there was some way to mend this mess, but the trust was gone. Completely gone. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wasn't sure I could ever forgive her not for this. Meanwhile, Lisa kept pushing. She kept trying to talk to me, act like everything was fine, or at least like she deserved a second chance. She'd cry, call me names, accuse me of overreacting. But I could see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could just lie her way out of this. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction anymore. I told her I needed space, that I didn't want to see her or hear from her for a while. I was done playing her game. I needed to think about what I truly wanted, whether I wanted to fight for this marriage or just walk away. My head was a mess. I'd always believed in honesty, loyalty, trust. When that's broken, what's left? I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing whether to jump or to hold on. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in the same place. I had to make a decision. I spent hours just staring at the walls, trying to come to terms with what had happened. Every day was a new wave of emotion: anger, sadness, confusion. I'd get mad at myself for loving her, then feel guilty for even thinking about leaving. It was a roller coaster I didn't want to be on, but here I was, stuck in the middle of it. What really tore me up was the realization that my trust in her was shattered beyond repair. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd shared my life with, was capable of sneaking around, lying and cheating during the one thing that was supposed to keep me alive: my dialysis treatments. It was like her betrayal contaminated even the most sacred part of my life. I couldn't help but feel like I'd been living in a lie from the start. And the worst part, I didn't even know how to start picking up the pieces. Do I forgive her? Do I fight to save this marriage? Or do I just walk away and pretend none of this happened? I knew I had to figure out what I truly wanted, but honestly, I was so hurt, so angry, that I didn't even know if I could trust myself anymore. Every time I thought about her, I felt this mix of rage and heartbreak that made my chest tight. I kept asking myself, how do you come back from something like this? How do you look at someone you loved, knowing they betrayed you in such a way? The pain was raw, and I was starting to realize that no matter what I decided, nothing would be the same again. It was like my entire world had been flipped upside down, and I was desperately trying to hold onto the pieces. The worst part about all this is how sudden everything changed. One minute, I was just a guy married to a woman who had her flaws but was still mine. The next, I was confronting her, discovering her lies, and realizing that my entire life had been a carefully constructed illusion. It hit me like a freight train, that feeling of betrayal, the sickening realization that she'd been sleeping around with Jake during my treatments, my most vulnerable moments. I felt so humiliated, so furious. I wasn't sure I'd ever breathe normally again. After I told her to leave, she didn't go quietly. She threw tantrums, called me names, and tried to guilt-trip me into taking her back. But I was beyond that. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could get away with murder. She kept insisting she was sorry, that it was a mistake, and that she loved me. Yeah, love. That's rich coming from someone who just betrayed me in the worst way. I told her I needed space, and I meant it. I needed to clear my head to get some perspective. For days, I was a mess. I kept replaying everything, the moments I missed, the signs I overlooked, the times she snapped at me for no reason. I kept thinking about the woman I married, how I'd trusted her, and how she turned around and stabbed me in the back. It felt like I'd lost a part of myself. I no longer recognized her, and honestly, I didn't know if I even wanted to. I was hurt, angry, and feeling like I'd been played for a fool. The betrayal cut so deep that I wondered if I'd ever be able to get past it. Then came the practical side. What next? I met with a lawyer again just to get some advice. Turns out I have grounds for divorce, especially given her infidelity. That knowledge did make it any easier, but it gave me some clarity. If I wanted to end things, I could. I also started documenting everything, her texts, her call logs, that picture of her with Jake. I wanted to be ready, ready to fight if I needed to, or to walk away with dignity. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to contact me, acting like she was the victim. She'd cry on the phone, beg for a chance, pretend to be sorry, like she had some right to play the victim after what she did, but I saw through her. That fake remorse, that false apology, it was all just her way of keeping me on the hook. I wasn't interested in her tears or her manipulations anymore. I'd made my decision. I was done playing her game. I told her she needed to leave me alone, that I was taking time to think, to really think about whether I wanted to stay or go. Honestly, the more I reflected, the more I realized I couldn't trust her again, at least not in the way I once did. My faith in her, in our marriage, was shattered. How could I trust someone who lied, who cheated, who used my most vulnerable moments to entertain her sex life? It felt like the betrayal contaminated everything in my life, even my health. My treatments, which I'd thought were saving my life, now just seemed tainted by her lies. I kept asking myself, how do I move past this? How do I rebuild what's broken? Every day, I wrestled with a new wave of emotions. Sometimes I felt numb, like I was just going through the motions. Other times, I'd get angry and want to lash out. And then there was the heartbreak, the crushing pain of knowing the woman I loved had been unfaithful in such a cruel way. I was at a crossroads, and I knew I had to make a choice soon, whether to fight for the marriage or to cut my losses and walk away. But honestly, I didn't have a clear answer. I was just trying to survive, trying to keep it together, even when it felt like I was falling apart inside. What struck me most is how betrayal changes everything. It's not just about the affair, it's about the way it makes you question everything. I kept wondering if I'd ever be able to trust again, if I'd ever look at her the same way. I loved her, but I couldn't ignore what she'd done. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, and I was terrified that no matter what I chose, I'd be carrying this pain with me forever. I never thought I'd find myself in such a mess, but here I was, trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces of a life that felt like it was falling apart. The hardest thing about all this is how fast my world flipped upside down. One moment I was just a guy married to a complicated woman, and the next I'm staring at the wreckage of everything I believed in. I kept thinking about the times she snapped at me, the lies she told to cover her tracks, and how I'd been so blind. It's like I was walking around with my eyes closed, trusting her blindly, and now I see everything in this brutal, unforgiving light. The betrayal is so deep that I feel like I'm walking around with a scar that I'll carry forever. One night I finally broke down and called a close friend, Tom. He's been through some tough stuff himself, and I needed someone to talk to who wouldn't judge me. I told him everything about the messages, the picture, her lies, and how I was feeling. It was cathartic to finally get it out loud. Tom listened patiently, then told me that what I was going through was one of the worst kinds of betrayal. He said I had every right to be angry, hurt, and confused. But he also warned me. Whatever I decided, I had to do it for myself. I couldn't stay in limbo forever, and I couldn't let her manipulations keep controlling me. That conversation made me realize I needed to be honest with myself about what I wanted. I started thinking about what it would take to move on, whether that meant fighting for the marriage or walking away for good. I kept asking myself if I could ever look at her the same way again, if I could forgive her. The truth was, I wasn't sure. Forgiveness seemed impossible right now. All I could see was the pain, the lies, and the way she'd used my trust like a cheap piece of paper that she'd thrown in the trash. Meanwhile, Lisa kept pestering me, acting like she was the victim. She'd show up at the house, crying, begging, trying to guilt-trip me into giving her another chance. She'd say things like, "It was just sex," or "I didn't mean for it to happen," trying to minimize everything. But I saw right through her. I knew she was just trying to manipulate her way back into my life. I didn't want to be fooled again. I told her she needed to leave me alone, that I needed time to heal and figure out what I really wanted. I wasn't interested in her tears or her apologies anymore. I just wanted some peace. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. My trust was shattered beyond repair, and I didn't see myself ever fully trusting her again. I kept replaying everything, the moments I missed, the signs I ignored, the times she brushed me off or snapped at me for no reason. Now I see she was hiding something. She always was good at hiding things, at spinning lies and making herself look innocent. She's a master manipulator, and I was her latest victim. I felt like a fool for ever trusting her, and that realization hit me hard. How do you come back from knowing the person you loved, the person you thought was your partner, was sleeping with someone else during your treatments? That's what keeps haunting me. I kept asking myself whether I should try to forgive her, to work through this mess, or just cut my losses and walk away. Honestly, I didn't have an answer. Every day was a battle, trying to hold on to whatever little hope I had left, trying not to drown in the pain. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. My life had been a lie for too long, and now I was faced with the harsh truth that the woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst way possible. My health, my trust, my entire sense of security had been contaminated by her lies and her sex with Jake. I realized I needed to make a choice, and I had to do it soon. I either had to fight for the marriage and confront her with everything I'd discovered, or I had to walk away and start over, even if it meant facing the pain and loneliness. Part of me still hoped that maybe I could forgive her someday, that perhaps we could rebuild something stronger out of the ashes. But another part kept telling me that some wounds are too deep. They don't heal, they just scar over. That's what I was scared of. I was scared I'd never be able to look at her the same way, never trust her again, and that I'd carry this pain forever. So I sat there in the silence of my own thoughts, feeling more alone than I ever had. The betrayal cut through me like a knife, every moment I'd shared with her now tainted by suspicion and bitterness. I had to figure out what was next. I had to decide whether to fight for her, to try to save the marriage, or to cut her out completely. Honestly, I didn't know if I had the strength for either. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this limbo anymore. My life depended on making a decision. And the scary part, I didn't even know if I was ready for what that decision would be. The days that followed were a blur of restless nights and endless questions. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what my life had become. The woman I loved, the person I trusted most, had turned out to be someone I barely recognized anymore. The betrayal had left a mark so deep I wondered if I would ever fully recover from it. Every time I thought about her with Jake, at that restaurant, I felt a surge of anger and sorrow. It wasn't just about the sex or the lies. It was about the fundamental breach of trust, the sense that my entire world had crumbled beneath my feet. I knew I had to do something. Sitting in limbo was killing me. I had to decide whether to fight for the marriage or walk away, because pretending everything was fine was no longer an option. I met with my lawyer again and made up my mind. Divorce was inevitable. I couldn't stay married to someone who'd lied, cheated, and used my health as a backdrop for her selfishness. It was an ugly choice, but it was the only one left. I started gathering all the evidence I had: texts, emails, the picture. and made sure I had everything I needed to support my decision. It felt like arming myself for a battle I didn't want to fight but knew I had to. Meanwhile, Lisa's attempts to manipulate me into forgiving her continued. She call, cry, and try to guilt-trip me into giving her another chance. But I was done playing her game. The trust was gone, and I could see her for what she really was, a selfish woman who thought sex and lies could just be swept under the rug. I refused to be her pawn anymore. I told her to leave me alone and that I needed time to heal, to figure out what I truly wanted. I couldn't let her lies control me any longer. I also took time to reflect on myself, who I was before this mess, and who I wanted to be afterward. I realized that I'd spent too much of my life trusting the wrong people, believing in fairy tales that turned out to be lies. Her betrayal wasn't just a blow to my marriage, it was a blow to my sense of self. I had to rebuild slowly, carefully, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. Trust was shattered, but I could rebuild my life from the ground up without her, if that's what it came to. It's strange how betrayal can strip you down to your core. I never thought I'd be the guy who'd face something like this, but here I am. I've learned that sometimes love isn't enough to fix a broken trust, that some betrayals cut so deep, they leave scars you carry forever. I've come to accept that I may never fully forget what happened, but I can choose to move forward, better, stronger, and wiser. I've realized that my health, my happiness, and my dignity come first. No one, not even someone I loved, has the right to treat me with such disrespect. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also know that sometimes you just don't want to see the truth. Love can blind you and betrayal can blindside you when you least expect it. The pain is real and it's raw, but it's also a lesson. A hard one, but one I won't forget. I've learned the importance of boundaries, of listening to my instincts, and of never undervaluing myself. No matter how much I loved her, I learned that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, things she clearly wasn't willing to give. So now I'm slowly picking up the pieces of my life. I've decided to let go of the past, to forgive myself for trusting her, and to focus on healing. The road ahead isn't clear, but I know I'll be okay. Because I've realized that sometimes the greatest act of strength is walking away from betrayal and choosing myself instead. Lisa is gone from my life now, not physically maybe, but emotionally and spiritually. And honestly, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I may never forget what she did, but I will move forward, stronger, wiser, ready to face whatever comes next.